Alright, if you guys can hear the sound of my voice, please let me know in the comments section. As I always have to check the audio until I can get Google Plus working again. Let me know in the chat room if you can hear the sound of my voice. Okay, good. Alright, let's start. Okay, so Impact Wrestling, week, I believe, 9 of the World Title Series. First week of the week of the round of 16. So after 8 weeks, group play is finally over. Which means that we finally get something different in this tournament. At least you'd think so. So, naturally, the show starts with a wrestling match. Because we haven't seen much of that lately, right? This one was actually kind of interesting, though. DJZ versus EC3. We've never seen these guys face off before, I believe. And with the characters they have, yeah, you figure there might be an entertaining clash of personalities here, at least if the writers were awake. But so naturally we didn't really get this. So not a lot of character in there beyond what the wrestlers themselves were bringing to the table. Ultimately, it was just the exact same thing we've been getting for the last 2 months. Just two guys having a match in a tournament that never ends. But it was two guys that I like having a match that I haven't seen before, so that was kind of cool at least. EC3 wins, of course, because he's EC3 and DJZ is in the X Division, and we all know that, well, we all know what that means at this point. And right after this, we had something very different, actually. Tigre Uno versus Gail Kim. This is the match that I was most interested in this week, just out of curiosity. I've talked in the past about how I thought TNA should try experimenting with intergender matches because, one, they're different, two, WWE doesn't do them, and three, they've got a couple women on their roster who could believably pull it off. So, if you're doing the X Division champion versus the Knockouts champion, this is kind of fascinating to me for the spectacle of it, if nothing else. And it's a good matchup because if there's one woman in this company who could actually compete in the X Division and make it work, it would be Gail. This was something pretty unique here, and on that basis, I was really interested. And I liked what they did. They took it seriously. They didn't make a joke out of it. Tigre felt awkward about it at first, so he was tentative for a while. But Gail was really fired up and taking it to him until he figured that until he figures that he needs to beat her even if she's a woman. I didn't mean that to sound like domestic violence, but you know what I mean. He's still holding back. And Gail keeps capitalizing until he's like, okay, I'm giving her an inch and she's taking a mile. I got to get serious here, and it's a really easy situation to root for Gail in because it's something new for her, and she's a natural underdog here just because she's facing a man. When you see Tigre Uno doing the splash over the ropes and land on Gail like a ton of bricks, you want to cheer for Gail in that situation because she's given up a lot of body mass and a lot of weight, and just because of that, this was probably the most over Gail has been in a match in the last few months, at least that I've seen. I mean, lately, she has not been drawing much crowd reaction at all, but here, the crowd seemed to be behind her. And I think it's worth pointing out. And they had a good match. I like this. Tigre won, but Gail made him work for it. It was competitive, but not in a fake or unbelievable way. And I think they both came off well. I wish they'd stayed on it for a while to get the post-match reactions. And they kind of did afterward, after the commercial break. Because it is a really unique situation. But aside from that, I liked what TNA did here. Good segment. And right after that, we have Davey Richards versus Bram. Excuse me, the Diabolical Bram. Another fresh matchup that's really interesting and harder to predict. Also, because they really could have had either guy go over, and you would have bought it. So this was cool. Match was good. Davey wins, which is totally fine with me. Although at some point, I think TNA should consider protecting Bram more than they do, because he loses a bit too frequently for someone who's supposed to be as dangerous as they say he is. And it was around this point that I figured they were going to try to get through the entire round of 16 in one show, meaning that the pacing of this never-ending tournament was finally starting to pick up. That can only be a good thing. Not wasting any time on silly things like promos or backstage pre-tapes or storylines of any kind, we go right into our next match. Another fresh one, Eli Drake versus Mahabali Shera. That's clever. This was okay. Mostly a squash match here, unfortunately, so Shera can look dominant and not incredibly long either. I would have preferred something more competitive to protect Eli Drake a bit more, but you had to figure Shera was going over here. And then we have Bobby Roode versus Matt Hardy. And here's where it gets a little frustrating. I'll admit Bobby Roode is not at a really hot point for his character right now. And he hasn't been put in a position lately where him going for the world title makes sense. But saying that, that said, him jobbing to Matt Hardy just feels wrong. It was probably a good match, but I didn't really care about it because I knew who was going to win, and that really didn't interest me. I know TNA are on a huge Matt Hardy kick right now for whatever reason, but I'm just not on board with this. And then right into our next match. It was the second intergender match of the round of 16. Jesse Godderz versus Awesome Kong. And holy shit, this actually started with a promo. I know, right? We see them so rarely on the show right now. I'm as shocked as you are. Of course, Godderz acts like an arrogant prick. There's nothing really noteworthy about the promo. He's just being himself. Flexing the muscles and being, oh, you're a woman. You didn't come out to wrestle me. You want to kiss me. If the writers spent more than 60 seconds writing that promo, I'd be shocked. But yeah, Godderz thinks Kong wants to play tonsil hockey with him because that's what's going to work against Awesome Kong, right? But give him credit, at least there was something here other than just a match, so I guess you got to give Godderz some points for that. The booking was going to be key here. You couldn't have Kong playing the underdog. That doesn't work with her. But at the same time, she's not as mobile as she used to be, so you kind of had to be careful here. I liked it for the most part. Everything felt true to character, although Godderz trying to walk out felt kind of ridiculous. But so all of a sudden he doesn't want to win the world title anymore? Yeah, okay. I think if you had to put Godderz over, this was probably the way to do it. Having Kong kick his ass for a while, and then he just gets the really cheap pin and narrowly escapes a beating. It protects Kong for the most part, but I don't know if this was the right way to go. If TNA were really serious about making the fact that there are knockouts in this tournament competing against the men mean something, like this is a significant event, I would not have had both of them lose the first time they had to wrestle the men. I would have had at least one of them go over and advance to the next round. And with this match, because it's Kong, and because most people don't really take Godderz seriously yet anyway, I think that would have made sense to do here. I don't understand why. I understand why they had Goddard's win. I do, but if I'm booking this, I don't know if I would have gone this way. Right into the next match. Eric Young versus Kenny King. These guys are former allies from the Beatdown Clan angles, so there was some context that they could have added here just to give the match a little extra something, but predictably the writers didn't bother. I guess that would have been too much work. It's a good match, but we all knew Eric was going over here. I don't know if that was Kenny's last appearance that they taped or not. But if it is, it's really disappointing to me that they didn't do more with him. He's a guy they really missed the boat on. And then on to the main event. Lashley versus Drew Galloway. Actually, a really big match by current TNA standards. This was another one where you couldn't necessarily predict the winner. I figured they were going with Galloway here in order to try to replicate the Bound for Glory situation to some extent. But actually, they didn't. And I appreciated the finish, where they had Galloway go for the same move he beat Lashley with to qualify for the Bound for Glory main event, but Lashley having it scouted this time. It was one of the very few moments on this show that actually had some kind of storyline continuity. So it's worth pointing out. And it's a pretty solid match, and it actually had an outcome that I didn't think they were going to do, so that was nice. But with this being the 8th tournament match in a row on this show, with nothing to break up any of the wrestling, any of the matches, I was feeling a little bit fatigued by this point. This was a step up from all the group play shows, in that there was a hint of unpredictability here. Just a hint. You weren't quite sure how all the matches would play out, and the intergender stuff was something you don't see every day. Problem is, the format of the show was exactly the same. Just a bunch of matches, no pre-tapes, almost no promos at all, and we've had 2 months of cookie-cutter, cut-and-paste shows just like this. And personally, I'm just finding it all very tiresome. The sooner they shake this show up, the better. Starting with the round of 8. Yeah, starting with the round of 8, they're probably going to have to start adding more promo segments or more of something besides wrestling. So there's that. Here's to that. But that doesn't do anything to help this show. I will say that I enjoyed this one more than the group play episodes because it was a little bit different. But in the end, most of the same problems still persist. And that is that. So if you have anything you want to say about Impact Wrestling, do it now in the chat room. Direwolf87, alright, well, I guess ask me about whatever you want. I don't know if you talked about this before, but what do you think of Nicole Matthews? I like Nicole Matthews. I've always really enjoyed the Canadian Ninjas. I'm a fan of their gimmick. I'm a fan of their act. I think it sucks that Portia had to retire from injuries. But I like Nicole Matthews a lot. I'm hoping she gets signed by someone at some point. I think she's good enough. I think she'd work on television. I'm a proponent of Nicole Matthews. Yeah, so, yeah, I like her. The Save Me won. Gail outperformed the hell out of Tigre Uno in that match. Okay. I would agree with that. I would also argue that that was kind of the point. That Tigre was holding back because he felt awkward about having to wrestle a woman. And so Gail had to kind of outshine him there because that was what it was going to take for him to stop holding back. I think the match was designed to be that way, and I think it worked. Jim Kahn, when Game of Thrones comes back on, will you do reviews? I'll probably do a stream about the season as a whole when it's over. Probably won't be talking about the individual episodes, but if you want to ask me about them on the Comic Show post show, feel free. Because that's one of the few shows that I still watch week to week. You know, a lot of the time I'll wait until a bunch of A lot of time I'll wait until a bunch of episodes build up so I can binge watch them online. But there are a select few shows that I still watch week to week, and Game of Thrones is one of them. So I'll talk about the season as a whole when it's over, but won't be doing like big reviews for them all the time. WeBear50, your thoughts on this week's Raw rating? I don't think I saw it. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. No DQ usually has these. Okay, here we go. Raw viewership numbers. Come on. Episode of Raw averaged 3.168 million viewers, up from the 2.964 million from last week. The first hour averaged 3.309 million viewers, 3.19 million for the second hour. Final hour was 3.005. Okay, well, they didn't dip into the twos, but they were really fucking close in the third hour. I said on Twitter during Raw, like, don't be surprised if they get a lower rating than last week, because this show was a fucking snooze fest. Rating went up slightly, but they're still not doing well. I guess there was a little bit of a snapback effect, but so what? The show's still fucking boring. That's still not a good rating by Raw standards, by any stretch of the imagination. And I expect the rating will probably dip back down again before too long. And I kind of hope it does, because there's not much else that's going to prove that they need to make changes. WeBear50, do you watch the Nostalgia Critic videos? Yeah! I love the Nostalgia Critic videos. The guy is awesome. I watch the new ones whenever they come out. I think Doug Walker's a comedic genius. Just about everything he does lands with me. I'm a really big fan of that guy. Giancarlo Vasquez Marcano. I guess this is between EC3, Matt Hardy, and Lashley to win the world title. I guess the final four will be in the Pop debut tapings. Well, they go back to Pop. Start on Pop TV in January. Let's see, how many more? So there's a couple more weeks of shows before then. Let's see, next week is the round of 8. I guess the final four would be the following week. No, I think they'd hit the final four before they debut on Pop TV. Unless they want to drag this out by doing maybe just 2 matches a show. I think if they decided to stretch it out a little bit, they could have like the final match of the tournament be on the debut episode of Pop TV. I think that would probably be a good idea. I mean, there's no bigger match they could make at that point after all this build-up with this tournament. Raw got a 2.21. Yeah, okay. Alright. Jeff Atwood, do you think Reigns will be booked to win the world title at TLC? Maybe not at TLC. I think certainly by the Royal Rumble. I don't see them rolling into WrestleMania with Sheamus as the champion. They've got to know that's not a realistic option. Personally, I view Sheamus as a transitional champion right now. He's probably not going to hold the belt for very long. I don't know if Reigns will win it at TLC, but certainly by the Royal Rumble. The Save Me won. The women were way more over in the matches than the men were. Well, yeah. I think that's a natural byproduct of putting them against men, because you're naturally going to want to root for the women. Because Gail was a natural underdog against a man, and Kong was just way more likable and a natural babyface against someone like Goddard. So I think people were going to be much more inclined to root for the women, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think intergender matches are worth exploring. WeBear50, your predictions for UFC 194. McGregor versus Aldo. Oh, I don't really have any. I haven't really been keeping up that much with UFC lately. I probably should be watching more closely. But I don't really have a prediction on that one. I'm sorry. See, WeBear50. I should start following UFC and Bellator because WWE and TNA are boring and watered down now in my book. Not going to argue with you on that. Direwolf87, have you ever seen the He-Man cartoons before? Way back in the day when I was a little kid, yes. I saw the rebooted version. I saw a couple episodes of the rebooted version a while back, a couple of years ago, I guess it was. I watched them on a nostalgic kick. I thought they were actually pretty good. I was disappointed that there weren't more of them because it seemed like they were kind of building up a pretty interesting story there. Save me one. I get that they're pushing She-Ra, but that was dumb. I don't disagree, but I believe when they taped this, they were still under the impression that the next leg of the tournament was going to be filmed on the India tour. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the situation. So naturally, they were going to want him to be a big part of the show. So in that sense, I do agree with you, but I understand why he's in this position. JCVM, your thoughts on Schleg Daddy's video about WrestleMania 32 might suck if you saw it. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I was in the middle of watching his video about why it might not suck today. I haven't finished it yet because I got busy with other stuff. But yeah, I don't think a lot needs to be said about it. He makes a lot of good points. I think I heard recently that all their tentative plans for WrestleMania have been scrapped, and they have to come up with a whole new game plan for that. So I don't know what the hell they're going to do now, but they're really hurting for star power right now. So I'm just WrestleMania. I'm not. They're probably. I think Vince is probably going to be sweating the attendance at WrestleMania 32 at this point. Darwolf87, did you hear that Mick Foley's son Dewey is going to be in the WWE creative team? Is he? Is that a thing? I didn't heard. Here we go. Rumor going around that Dewey Foley has joined the creative team, will be in working for the company after the holiday season. Okay. Well, that's cool. Mick is a creative guy. I would assume that runs in the family. They could use more creative people, certainly, so that's good. But ultimately, everything is still micromanaged by Vince and Hunter and Stephanie, and so I would not expect any big sweeping changes in the creative process. WeBear50, if Global Force Wrestling gets a real TV deal with a real network, then I go back to following pro wrestling. Is that a question? Well, WGN America, Fox Sports, or Spike. I think them getting any kind of TV deal is the best you could hope for. Any kind of TV deal in America. Getting on a real network when they have no bargaining power is probably a little too optimistic. I mean, all they have are essentially indie shows that they've produced, and they don't have enough brand recognition to really sell themselves to any major network. Is it possible they could get a TV deal on some small network? Maybe, but that's going to be a hard sell. Gail needs to be the X Division champion. You need the X Division permanently. She's done all she can with the knockouts at this point in her career. From Wizard66. I don't necessarily disagree. I think that would be something really interesting. God knows she's done everything in the knockout division that she can possibly do. And if she weren't in the knockout division anymore, it would open up some spots for some of the other girls to shine for a change. Uh, God knows that's been long overdue too. Christ. And like I said, her wrestling against a man was the most over I've seen her in a while. So that might be something to consider, honestly. Save me one. If Ronda Rousey retires from MMA and signs with WWE, do you think they would have her wrestle the men or the divas? Probably the divas. From what I hear, I don't think she's retiring from MMA yet. I think she said that she was gonna be back after she took some time to process the loss to Holly Holm. That said, I think if she were to leave MMA, I think she might make appearances for WWE. I don't think signing with them would be realistic. If anything, she'd probably go do more movies, like Gina Carano. I mean, she'd probably have a ton of offers, and she'd make more money there by making movies. Certainly, as a career move, I mean, it would be a better move for her, no question. But yeah, they'd probably have her wrestling the women for the most part. They're not going to have a woman kicking the asses of the men on their show unless it's like a really special circumstance. Let's see. Oh, Christ, it got away from me again. Looking forward to Davey versus EC3. Me too. That's another one that could be like an interesting clash of personalities, like the super serious ass kicker dude versus the guy with tons of personality. They could do some stuff with that. I don't know if they will. They could. Let's see. Did you see the Creed movie or not? I have not seen it yet. I've heard it's really good. I saw Chris Stuckman's review of it. He was raving about it. And I heard there might even be some Oscar buzz about this movie. So I hear it's really good. So I may see it. I may get around to it. I don't know. I haven't gotten to many movies lately. And right now I'm just kind of looking forward to The Force Awakens. So we'll see. I heard it's really good, though. Deontay 320. This Impact Wrestling review is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA make a long-ass tournament, they would have at least a segment or two to let the audience rest a little bit. That would have been nice on this show. That would have been nice. Jim Kahn, when Matt Hardy was in ROH, he played a pretty good heel, and maybe TNA should tap into that character. When the Hardys initially broke up in WWE and Matt was like playing a heel, I thought he was actually pretty good during that run. I don't know what happened to that. When he was a heel in his last run in TNA, I was like, oh, Jesus, this is not working. If he went heel now, it would probably be an improvement over his babyface character, which I just find kind of annoyingly self-righteous. So that might be something. And I have a feeling the audience might end up unintentionally turning EC3 face at some point, so that might be something to explore down the line. Did you watch Joe versus Ciampa on NXT? No, I didn't. Dire Wolf, I heard the match between Ciampa and Joe was a stiff match and looked violent as reports said. Maybe. Did you watch the Mark Remark video about Survivor Series yet? No. No. If the WWE machine backs Kevin Owens, I think he'll be that crossover star that gets them out of the hole. Just takes some time to build him up. And possibly. If they really got behind him, I don't think they will. It seems like they've already kind of sentenced him to the mid-card. I mean, now they've got guys like Wade Barrett and Alberto Del Rio, jumping over him, and fucking Rusev. Uh, I would put Kevin Owens above any of them, but they jumped ahead of him, and now they're this the League of Nations or the United Nations or whatever the hell it is. Uh, I don't know. I question whether or not Vince is really high on him that much. I mean, how often do we really hear Kevin Owens even talk on Raw lately? Not much. Not very often. It seems like the feud with Cena left him in a hole, and he's yet to dig himself out of it. Have you seen the intergender matches from Lucha Underground? No. I've heard they do them, but I haven't seen Lucha Underground. I'm not even sure if I get that channel. I've seen like little bits and pieces of Lucha Underground. We talked about this before. It's not really for me, but I appreciate that they're trying something different, not just going with like the traditional wrestling presentation. But I really haven't seen a lot of it. Thoughts on the new stable, the League of Nations? I don't have many. I know they were kind of scrambling for what to do after Rollins went down with a knee injury, and they didn't really have a ton of choices. That's mostly their own fault for not building up anyone to take Rollins' place should an injury happen. But it's just not terribly impressive. Yeah, Sheamus feels really awkward in this spot right now. They really hadn't built him up at all to cash in Money in the Bank until they felt like they had no choice. A Wade Barrett, who's been mired in the mid-card forever, and probably only a matter of time before he gets injured again. I mean, Rusev, who is stuck in this really bad comedy storyline with Ziggler and Summer and what have you, and he's not been positioned well. And there's ADR with the whole Mex America thing. I don't know if he's still doing that, but none of these guys were in a great position before this, and it just doesn't feel like it's gonna click for me at all. I'm not that interested. They're really lacking for star power now, and it shows. Mecha Shadow, what's your favorite TNA theme song? Of all time? I don't know, of all time. I can tell you some of the ones I really like. James Storm, Long Necks and Rednecks, that was a good one. Beer Money was a good one. Crimson had really good music. What the hell else? The Motor City Machine Guns original theme was really cool. EC3's is good. Probably some ones I'm forgetting, but those were some of them. WeBear50, what's your favorite late night comedy shows? Conan O'Brien. That's it, Conan O'Brien. Completely agree about Bram. He should be one of their top guys. Okay. I think in terms of potential, he could easily be one of the top guys. I understand if they're a bit hesitant because of the recent legal trouble he was in. But hopefully that's behind him now. Maybe if he keeps himself clean, maybe if he stays out of trouble this time, they could increase his profile on the show. I think he's got all the tools to be a top guy. And, TNA is kind of light on star power right now also, so it wouldn't hurt them to give him a bigger role, I guess, if they trust him to not get himself into trouble again. Deontay 320, Vince's WWE sucks when NXT champion and NXT women's champion does not want to be moved up to the main roster. Well, yeah, I mean, they probably get treated a lot better down there, don't they? I think it was Brie Bella who said that if she was working in NXT, she wouldn't want to go up to the main roster because the Divas get treated so much better on NXT. And look, I mean, there have been so many examples of this, of people doing great in NXT and then moving up to the main roster and they don't do anything. Fucking like what? Like Neville? He was the man in NXT, then he moves up to the roster and he's in mid-card oblivion. They're doing nothing with him. Seems like they've already lost interest in him after a matter of months. Um, Also, Kevin Owens could certainly have. I'm sure Kevin Owens' promotion to the mid card hasn't gone as well as some people had hoped. He came in with a bang, but that didn't last. I mean, look what happened with the feud with Cena. Won the first match, lost the second, lost the third one even worse, and then he's done nothing since. So a lot of those people, I think, are smart enough to realize that they get treated much better in NXT. They come off a lot better. Dire Wolf, would you want to see Lesnar and Owens feud, and how would you book it? Maybe down the line. I don't think there's any reason for them to fight right now. And Owens has not been positioned or built up enough to where he'd be a realistic threat for Lesnar. Maybe after some time, if they built up Owens into a beast, and he was like believable in a top role, and they'd really gotten behind him and pushed him as a legitimate threat, a guy who could really challenge Lesnar, then I'd like to see it. Of course, they'd have to put a lot of work into Kevin Owens to, build up his character to get him ready for that. I mean, as it is, they've got him playing the chicken shit heel sometimes against guys that are nowhere near Lesnar's level, so that's not going to work. WeBear50, on the good side of NXT releases, it saves them getting embarrassed on the main roster. Some of them might just feel that way. Dire Wolf, also, would you want to see a feud between the Young Bucks and the New Day? Yeah, why the hell not? Why the hell not? Did you hear Samurai Jack is coming back on Adult Swim? Yes, I did. It was trending worldwide earlier. I actually never watched Samurai Jack. I knew of it, and I knew it had a lot of fans and a big cult following. I'd never actually seen it myself. I might have to check that out at some point, though. I heard it was like really serialized for a cartoon, and it was like they were telling like a big serialized story, kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender or something, and it got canceled before they could finish the story. Maybe they're going to do that now. Maybe I should check it out. I heard it's from the same guy who did like the Clone Wars cartoon, not the CG show, but the animated shorts, and those I really liked. I actually have those on DVD back there. So if it's the same guy, yeah, maybe I should check that out. Save me one. There's a rumor that Cena may be leaving soon. If that happens, what will be the impact on the company? Yeah, I don't believe that. Cena's not leaving. If Cena leaves, it's because he can't wrestle anymore. That guy is such a mark for the WWE and so devoted to that company. I can't see any way that he's leaving. Even if he couldn't wrestle anymore, they'd probably want to use him as an ambassador or something, just to do anything to keep him in the company so they could keep selling the merch. Yeah, so I don't believe the rumor that he's leaving. Maybe in the short term, so he could shoot a movie or something, or heal from an injury, something like that. But other than that, I can't see him leaving. If he were injured and chose to leave, what would be the impact on the company? Oh, it would be really bad. Well, it was. That's been their top guy of what, the last 10+ years. I mean, no one's even come close to being elevated to the same level as him. If they lost him without really getting anything from him to kind of help them out in their future, that would be really bad. You get this guy who's walked over the whole roster for years, and then he just goes away without helping to build up anyone else, really. that would be a big blow to the company. Huge. Direwolf 87, TNA World Title Series sponsored by, in JR's voice, Skittles. Delicious, fruity, delicious, fruity, fruity. Okay. WeBear50, off character. Tell us the origin of the Fourth Dimension Full Killer character. Character? Well, the he's real and not a character as far as I know. If he were a character, it would probably have something to do with me just wanting to do something different, and may have probably involved wanting to do something to signify my switching to a different computer on a better editing system with which I could do more stuff. And, yeah, just me wanting to try out something different that other shooters weren't necessarily doing at the time. And plus, I don't like to... Now, you may have guessed, but I don't like... I kind of get bored quickly. I don't like to do the same thing for too long. I kind of like to change things up and try out different things, which I've done on this channel from time to time. So that would have had something to do with it too. Yeah, there would have been a lot of different reasons, honestly. Whoa, shit. Let's see. League of Nations better or worse than the Un-Americans? Un-Americans. Who the hell were the Un-Americans? I'm blanking. Who are the Un-Americans again? I'm tired. I can't... Refresh me. Who are the Un-Americans again? I'm sorry. I'm just not... I don't know. I'm blanking here. Jeff Atwood. Ronda would not be around fighting for at least a year. She's going to be spending a majority of 2016 filming the remake of Roadhouse. Jeez, how elaborate is that remake going to be if they need most of the year to film it? It's a movie about a fucking bar fighting. Is that really a movie that's going to require a huge CG budget with tons of elaborate stunts? Probably not. El Rey, the channel that has Lucha Underground, as a YouTube channel. You can watch their videos. Yeah, that's where I've seen most of the Lucha Underground stuff online. Not even sure if I have the El Rey channel, actually. JCVM, when the League of Nations was formed, the first thing I remember was the World Elite TNA back in 2009. Oh, geez, World Elite. Who could forget that magnificent stable? That they spent the better part of a year putting together, and then it fizzled out in a matter of months. Ugh. Wonder if the League of Nations will last that long. Ray Mastani, who is winning the Royal Rumble this year? Dude, honestly, I have no fucking clue. I don't think WWE have a clue right now. And there probably would have been a more concrete candidate if Rollins hadn't gone down with the injury, but he did. And since then, all the plans have changed reportedly, so I don't think they have a fucking clue who's going to win it right now. Direwolf 87, what did you think of Avatar: The Last Airbender? Probably one of the most high-quality cartoons in the history of American-made cartoons. Probably one of the best, if not the best. I think what the kind of the story that they told was really brilliant. I think it's got to be one of the best cartoons ever made. Really, I think the writing was really intelligent and thought provoking, which for technically a kids show is very rare these days. I think I love the animation quality. I tend to lose patience with cartoons pretty quick if the animation sucks. The animation was so fucking good on that show. It was amazing. I really like that. I think ultimately I do prefer Legend of Korra, just for personal reasons, but Avatar, that was a fucking great show. Really, really excellent. Damn. The Save Me one, Ronda versus Paige would be interesting, but other than that, I don't see there being a single diva that would be realistic to beat her. What realistic? I think her versus Natty might be interesting. Just because being on a just if you're just going by physical capabilities. Um, but yeah, I mean Natty's not exactly a hot character that they have a huge investment in. So yeah, that wouldn't really make sense. Like Ronda versus Asuka. Asuka would be cool. Ray Mastani, why don't you review WWE? Because WWE doesn't give me a whole lot that I want to talk about. That's pretty much it. And mostly I just find their shows pretty boring these days. And I'm not saying TNA is much better, because Lord knows TNA have a lot of problems themselves. But at the very least, TNA gives me more discussion points. With WWE, I'm just like, no. For me, there's just not a lot that I want to discuss in any great detail. Dire Wolf, the Un-Americans were Lance Storm, Test, and Christian. Oh, right. Now, who could forget that amazing stable? They were so memorable, right? So memorable I couldn't even remember who they were. Well, I liked Christian. I liked Lance Storm. I mean, liked him in WCW when his character was super hot. The WWE didn't really do anything with him. And Test, who was Test. What could you say about that guy? What could you say about that guy? I don't know. I don't really remember anything about the Un-Americans. Which probably amounts to them being quite an unmemorable stable, much like I suspect League of Nations will end up being. Direwolf 87, just hire Peter Griffin for the Roadhouse remake. Yeah, why the hell not? Direwolf 87, is WWE going into TNA territory of forming too many stables? I don't think they've reached the same burnout factor that TNA has with the stables. I'm not in any hurry to see any more of them, but I think it's still rare enough in WWE as something that you don't see every single day that they can kind of get away with it. With TNA, this is something they do constantly. To the point where it really doesn't mean anything anymore. I think with WWE, they can still sort of get away with it. But yeah, I mean, if it were up to me, I'd have a mandate like no stables in wrestling for a while. Just let the concept, let people get used to the idea of there not being any stables anymore. Because right now, I mean, there's stables all over the fucking place. It's a really overused concept, and I'm tired of it. I prefer it just go away for a while and come back when there's some desire to see it again. I'd honestly just retcon the entire roster and book them with credibility. Oh, if only that were a realistic option. Ray Mastani, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Did you know the WWE gave a survey to the WWE Fan Council? No, I didn't. I don't know why they bother. They don't listen to the fans anyway. Yeah, I don't really see the point. I mean, do you really think if they've learned something from this survey that they don't like that they're going to listen to the fans? Probably not. So I don't know why they bothered. Direwolf 87. Asuka might go up against Ronda realistically as well. Yeah, I could see that. Direwolf 87. Favorite food? Pineapple. Yeah, there's nothing like a good pineapple. Yeah, you give me like a big plate of this stuff, I'll eat it till I explode. It's like crack to me. Overall thoughts on the Starks from Game of Thrones. I like them. I was sad when Ned died. I love Arya. She's one of my favorite characters. I'm one of the few Sansa supporters out there because I like Sansa. I'm not sure why other people don't. I think her character is fine. I love Jon Snow, also one of my favorites. Yeah, Catelyn was cool too. I kind of disappointed that we're not going to get Lady Stoneheart, apparently. But yeah, I like the Starks. Bran's storyline has taken a long time to go anywhere. Uh, Probably why they skipped over his stuff last season. So we'll see. Hopefully they get to the more interesting stuff with him now. Yeah, so that's it. Ray Mastani, how would you book Reigns versus Sheamus at TLC? Oh man, you probably need to have. It's probably too soon to have Reigns win the title from him at TLC. So you think you gotta have. Probably gonna have Sheamus keep it in a way that puts at least some kind of heat on him because right now he doesn't really have any, as well as giving Reigns some sympathy. So probably have Sheamus retain in some screwy fashion, but not necessarily pinning Reigns. Maybe have Reigns come close to winning and then have the League of Nations all gang up on him or something. It's probably not a great idea. It would probably piss people off, but Reigns is still shaky in this role, and he needs something to get people to rally behind him. Uh, and I'm not sure anyone has any kind of investment in Sheamus as the world champion. So you got to make people eager to see him lose, and you got to make people eager to see Reigns win. But TLC was probably too soon to pull the trigger on that. I'd wait till the Royal Rumble. Just make people eager to see Sheamus lose and eager to see Reigns be the guy who does it. I don't think you could do that at TLC. Turb28, I don't get TNA's obsession with Matt Hardy either. I can't stomach seeing him wrestle anymore. After 5 minutes, he looks like he's about to collapse from exhaustion. Yeah, I've been saying this for a while. I really don't get it with the Matt Hardy thing. The only thing I can come up with is that he's the closest thing they can get to Jeff right now. Will this last once Jeff is healthy? I doubt it. But who the hell knows? This thing with the TNA and Matt has gone farther than I ever expected it to. I'd like to think they wouldn't have him beat EC3's undefeated streak, but who the hell knows at this point? They might be about to make some unwise decisions in that sense. Yeah, I don't understand the thing with Matt. I don't know why they're pushing him this much. I don't see the benefits of it. I don't see what they can get out of it. Is I think they're seeing things with Matt that aren't really there, and I really don't see what they hope to accomplish with the Matt Hardy push. I really don't. Uh, JCVM, I agree with you in a tweet where you said on Monday about WWE making Bubba Ray Dudley boring or generic because they're so heavily scripted, when in TNA, Bubba Ray was great on the mic. Yeah, because in TNA he got the freedom to be himself and probably cut his own promos. Probably, or write his own promos, rather. Where WWE, you could tell that every word of that promo was scripted and not by Bubba Ray. Because that was just another completely generic WWE promo, churned out by the creative process and micromanaged by Vince. All his personality was gone. There wasn't anything of Bubba Ray in that promo. You could tell he had nothing to do with that one. And it's like, why would you do this? You got one of the most entertaining guys in the business on the stick, and you've made him boring. You've completely sucked away what makes him who he is. If you're not going to let him be himself and get himself over, then what's the point? Why even let him talk at all? ROH has that same deal of too many stables because the only stable I actually like is the New Day and the Bullet Club. Okay. A lot of people, Jeff Atwood, a lot of people I've talked to saying that the Raw ratings will improve when Monday Night Football is over in January. My opinion, I don't see the ratings improving when football ends. I think they'll probably get a somewhat of a boost when football ends. I mean, they always take a hit every year when football starts. Of course, this one is a bigger hit than usual because the show's been so boring. There's not much of a reason to tune in, and they're not really doing anything in terms of counter programming, or shall we say, what they think is counter programming is not effective anymore. I think viewership will probably have somewhat of an uptick, probably not a huge one. We Bear 50, New Day make me laugh and entertain at the same time. Yeah, I like what the New Day do for the most part. I think lately they've been going a little bit over the top. I would rein them in a little bit. Because, too much of a good thing sometimes. It's what WWE do a lot. They find something that works and then they overexpose the hell out of it. I think they're kind of doing that with the New Day right now. I think they certainly deserve the spot they have. They're one of the more engaging acts in WWE at the moment. I would be careful not to just oversaturate the product with them, though. Ray Mastani, Tori Wilson, or Sable? Oh, Tori, 100%. Sable was too trashy. At least for me. Andrew Navarro, does Big E's hip shaking burn your eyes as much as it does mine? No, I'm fine with it. JCVM, Jeff Atwood, the ratings are not going to improve when Monday Night Football ends. Probably going to stay in the 3 million plus mark in viewership. Yeah, probably. Ian Israel, Tori Wilson, definitely. Sable makes me sick to my stomach. I wouldn't go that far. I will say Tori's a bit more wholesome than Sable. Let's see. Reigns versus Sheamus is a TLC match. Yeah, I kind of figured. Yeah. Yeah, they need to stick with jokes and insulting the cities WWE is in. New Day rocks. Okay. Bang, Marry, Kill, Eva, Cameron, and Velvet. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, that's... Oh, damn, that's a tough one. I guess if you put a gun to my head, I guess I'd probably kill Cameron because I just find her really annoying on Total Divas, or at least I did before I stopped watching Total Divas. Um, oh god, I guess I'd bang Velvet, marry Eva. Because Eva seems to have so little personality that I think at least she wouldn't be irritating. Maybe she'd be easier to ignore most of the time. Yeah, I really don't want to marry any of them though. HBE Hain, who is your pick to end EC3 streak? Yeah, we've been over this before. I don't. If I absolutely had to pick someone, I would say maybe Drew Galloway. But as of this moment, I don't think a solid candidate really exists. I mean, it's certainly not Matt Hardy. So yeah, if I had to choose someone, I'd go with Drew, but I don't think he's the ideal pick either. Rey Mastani, I would rather have Vince Russo book Raw than these shit writers they have. You know, honestly, if you watch Drew Russo's videos on the brand, you know, when he's talking about Raw and you know his views in the storytelling process, he actually makes a lot of sense. I think just when he's talking about writing for wrestling, he actually makes some really good points. It's something that happens during the writing process where some of those ideas just don't really translate to the screen well, or something gets changed around or micromanaged, and it just the end result isn't always so great. But some of his philosophies about the current state of the business, I do agree with. I think if the current products in both companies were to incorporate some of those philosophies, it might not be a terrible idea. Let's see. These scripted promos are not helping anyone at all. Totally agree. Vince is pretty much a douchebag. HBE Hain, thoughts on DJZ versus EC3? They both looked good. Agreed. Yeah, went over that earlier. I like the match. I kind of wish they'd been allowed to, play their personalities off each other a little bit more, but I like the match. I like the addiction. Oh, yeah. Who doesn't? Save me one. Sable is one of the top 5 sexiest women in the history of wrestling, in my opinion. Okay. Sable was never really my cup of tea, but to each their own. Let's see. Oh, Christ. Okay, let's try to get through these last couple questions so I can take a shower. CM Punk described New Day as 3 guys who don't give a fuck, and it shows whenever they're on TV. Who don't give a fuck about the current creative regime and are just kind of having fun fucking around and doing their own thing. Yeah, I can kind of see that. It's kind of like Michael Sheen in those Twilight movies. I think Spoonie said this when he was reviewing the show. He's like, I thought they cared, the Volturi actors, but I was wrong. They're the only ones who don't, and that's why they're so entertaining. And I think that kind of describes the New Day pretty well. That's a pretty good description of them, actually. LB One of a Kind. Did you hear TNA going to show the Asylum years every Thursday on their YouTube channel? Yeah, I did. If you care about watching old wrestling shows from that era, fine. I'm not really interested in revisiting the past at this point. I'd rather focus on the future. So I don't really care about it, but other people might. Darewolf87, how would you have booked Jesse versus Kong? I think it was booked the right way for the most part. I think the only thing I would have changed was maybe having Kong go over instead, like I said before, because I think might not have been the best idea to have a thing like intergender matches, which again was something really unique and could have been kind of a special occasion, and then not really do anything with it. I mean, if you had one of them, Gale or Kong, advance to the next round, that would have been something because, hey, we did something unique here, and it actually led to something. You know, they actually went over the men, and no one expected that. So maybe there's something about this that's worth, following up on. Otherwise, I think it was booked okay. LB One of a Kind, I see product of WWE is still going down in the ratings, and it will eventually, sooner than later, hit 1.9. Yeah, they are heading in that direction. Might happen sooner than we think. HBE Hain, do you think wrestling promotions rely on beating a dead horse situation when it comes to building new stars? Oh, hell yeah. So many wrestling promotions are beholden to a certain formula. God knows WWE and TNA are, also ROH too. In large part, they're all just doing the same thing over and over and taking the same route to creating new stars, and nothing's really effective anymore. They all need to make changes in that sense. Direwolf, how would you book Asuka against Cameron, Eva, and Velvet? Same way in every one. I just have Asuka completely steamroll over them. Just completely tear them a new asshole. All three of them. Ian Israel, Cameron is hot. I don't care what y'all say. She's attractive, I suppose. Doesn't do anything for me, but I guess, aesthetically, she's not hard to look at. But then she opens her mouth, and suddenly doesn't seem so attractive anymore. Thoughts on WWE's Breaking Ground? Oh, I don't know. I'm not watching it. I saw promos for it that made it look like just kind of like Tough Enough with a different name. And I really have no desire to watch that. I guess it's a reality show about about people in the developmental system? Or trying to get into the developmental system or something like that? I don't know. Really doesn't interest me. I'm not big on the whole reality TV thing right now. I'm kind of burned out on all that stuff. I think the last thing WWE needs is more programming. If anything, they need less. So I haven't watched it. I'm not interested in it. Rey Mysterio, who should take her face at WrestleMania? Who the hell else can he face? God, I wouldn't want them to do Lesnar again. Maybe John Cena. I think Slag Daddy suggested that. I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe have that one last match. I guess Cena is it's a match that's never happened at WrestleMania, and I mean, yeah, figured they'd be pretty confident that Cena could pull a great performance out of Taker. So if want him to have one last Mania moment, that would be a good choice. I can't really think of who else would make sense. Jeff Atwood. Can you imagine a great promo between Bad Influence, The New Day, EC3, Joseph Park, and the Dirty Heels? Oh, that would be epic. I'd watch fucking 2 hours of that. Direwolf, I get what he's saying about Raw. The problem is his name is Vince Russo. Yeah. He's probably never going to live that down. Um, Thoughts on why the WWE sucks? Oh God, if I went into that one, we'd be here all day. Bottom line is the really short version is that the show is just fucking boring right now. It has been for a long time. Thoughts on why every other outside company have a better product than WWE? It might not be by much, but it's better. Well, I think WWE are kind of set in their ways. I think they're kind of they've reached a point of overconfidence where they feel like they can just put out any kind of show they want and not really try that hard because people are going to watch regardless just because they're the WWE. I think there's a certain level of complacency. It's long been my opinion that one of the worst things that ever happened to the WWE was them buying out WCW. Because once they bought out their competition, they didn't have competition anymore, so they had no reason to try to produce a great show. So they got lazy. And in my opinion, the product has never really been the same after that. So, I mean, all these other companies, they may have problems, but at least they have motivation to try to improve. WWE doesn't really have that. LB One of a Kind, they didn't expect Gail to advance because she stated she doesn't like doing intergender matches much, but I wanted Kong to advance. Yeah, I probably think it would have made sense to have Kong advance. If it was going to be one of them. It's kind of too bad. Ian Israel, Abyss needs to retire. Agreed. Guy's been packaged and repackaged and repackaged so many times, I don't care anymore. I respect the dude, but it's just, I have really no desire to see him again. LB One of a Kind, how is there 33 likes on a video but only 13 currently watching? I didn't get it. I don't get YouTube. That's probably down to the software I'm using to stream this. Wirecast. Apparently, what that does is it starts the stream from the same place. It's not starting a new stream, it's continuing the old one, I think. That's why it's the same chat room with all the comments from the previous stream. So where I think we're just continuing the old one or something like that. I'm not sure how that works exactly. This is kind of like my backup option in case the Google Plus thing doesn't work, and it hasn't been working for a while. I'm still trying to figure out why Google Plus won't let me use the comment section. Having no luck with that. Hopefully that'll sort itself out, but I think that's what happened. Add in the Young Bucks in that promo, and the segment is gold. Yeah. A few super kicks wouldn't hurt that segment either. Ian Israel loves my shirt. Thank you. I really like this shirt. It's one of my favorites. Wish I could remember where I got it. Abyss should go in the TNA Hall of Fame. Maybe not next year because I think Bobby Roode and a few others should go in before him. Whatever. Don't really care about the TNA Hall of Fame. Never have. It's always felt like a joke to me, but whatever. As well as Eli Drake in that promo battle. Yeah. No disagreements here. Let's see. Rey Mysterio, should Lesnar put somebody over at WrestleMania? If not, who does he face? Well, do they have anyone in a position to beat a Brock Lesnar? Not really. Almost certainly not. Who does he face? Now that's another tough one. Who do they have to face Brock Lesnar? Who do they have that wouldn't just be a squash for Brock Lesnar at this point in time? Do they have anybody? I don't know. They'd have to build somebody up. Unless they want to do Reigns again. I don't think that would make sense. Uh, Lucky STR8, did you catch the new Batman vs Superman trailer? I saw the snippet of spoiler alert of a Batman chained up, and then Superman shoots down into that tunnel, and these guys are bowing to him, and then he takes the Batman mask off. Uh, I saw that. I didn't. If is there another full length trailer out there? If so, I haven't seen it. I thought it looked cool when I saw. Um, haven't really been following the development of that movie too closely, though. I guess they are due for another full length trailer at some point, aren't they? But yeah, I liked what I saw. I'm optimistic about the movie. I think it'll be good. LB One of a Kind, do you think wrestling has gotten worse because WWE keep exposing kayfabe and exposing the business to the public too much? Nah. I think it's more of a sense, not exposing kayfabe, but not really knowing what to do with it. I mean, everybody knows this stuff is scripted. Uh, but, they go so far to... I think they go so far overboard with that while also trying to do the realities, trying to do reality based stuff, and it's I don't know. I don't think they know how to incorporate it right. Exposing the business to the public was going to happen anyway. It's the information age. I mean, that stuff always gets out. I don't think it's so much about exposing the business, but as much as not really knowing what to do with the business now that it's been exposed. Direwolf87, were you interviewed by OTRS Central before? I was on his podcast. I was a guest on his podcast once. Had a really fun time. Direwolf87, do you like Conan's late show on NBC or his current show on TBS? Oh, I like them all. I do have a fondness for the old late night show. But I love the TBS show too. Conan's always great. LB One of a Kind, explain to the world why Awesome Kong... What? Explain to world why Awesome Kong hotter than Nia Jax, but Havoc at what are you asking? Rey Mastani, what about Daniel Bryan versus Lesnar? Well, it's a crapshoot about whether they'll even clear Bryan. I think if he is cleared by then, fingers crossed, just in terms of crowd support and star power, I mean, I guess him versus Lesnar would make sense. I mean, they wouldn't have anyone else as over as Bryan on the show by a fucking mile. So, I guess if they just wanted to do this massive underdog story, I guess that would work. I wouldn't expect Bryan to beat him, nor should he really. It would be an easy match to get behind, at least. Now Bryan would get killed by Lesnar. Oh, I'm not saying Bryan would win. No, he wouldn't. I wouldn't expect them to have him go over Lesnar. No, probably would not be a good idea. I just think it would be an easy match for people to root for. And in terms of star power, one of the biggest matches they could make, certainly. What should they do with Bray Wyatt? They should have him go away for a while. And come back fresh with maybe a new twist on his gimmick. After people have forgotten about the way they've completely butchered his act for a while now. Because nobody takes this guy seriously anymore. Nobody. Hashtag the new farce of fear. And the whole Wyatt thing has become a joke. The best thing they could do, just go away for a while, come back and start over fresh. Favorite Conan skit? Mine was the satellite skits as well as Max Weinberg back and forth. My favorite Conan skit, probably the year 2000. I love the year 2000. I wish they still did that. Yeah. Current one on TBS is the Bill Tull ones. Yeah. LB One of a Kind. Can Rockstar Spud be a good world champ? Do you think TNA should have him win the title in his home country? I don't think that would be... No, I think part of Rockstar Spud's appeal is the underdog thing. I think if you have him go all the way with the win the world title, it kind of detracts from that. Part of the appeal from him with him is that you wouldn't expect him to win a match like that. Wouldn't expect him to win the big one, but he always tries. And I think that's part of what makes him relatable. I think if he were to win the world title, you kind of lose that. Maybe as a really, really short transitional champion, maybe, but for any length of time, no, I don't think that would work. Year 2000 was awesome as well. Favorite celebrity one? I don't know. Such a long time ago. I remember when The Rock did the year 2000 thing with him. That was funny. If you could push or repackage Crazy Steve, what would you do and how would you book him? I don't know. Honestly, they've never really done anything with the current gimmick. It feels like people... I tend to think people might get behind it if they tried to do something or anything with it. They could try to do something with that first to see if that could get over. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it. Why didn't they just turn Roman heel? It would have added interest to the product. Well, because they want Roman Reigns to be the heir apparent to John Cena. And if that happens, they're not turning him heel. Probably ever. Is it too late to turn Reigns heel? No, it's not too late. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. I would assume that they're not. Ray Bastani, what's the one thing you would change right away if you were Vince? Stop micromanaging everything. Stop constantly changing your mind and let the writers do their jobs and write some long-term storylines that don't suck. Okay, you know what? This is going to be the last question, and then we're going to sign off for the night, because I need to get something to eat. And I still need to do a couple things before I hit the sack. Would Cena put over Reigns or no? Well, Cena's a company man. I think if they asked him to, he would. That's probably coming at some point if they want Reigns to be their next Cena. May not happen right away, but yeah, I think he'd do it. I mean, he's put over other guys. He put over Kevin Owens in his first match on the main roster. I imagine he'd put over Reigns if the situation called for it. Whether or not that win would be meaningful and help Reigns in any significant way is a harder question to answer, but I think if they asked him to, he'd put over Reigns, sure. Alright, and that's going to be it for me tonight. Got a couple other things to do. So thanks everybody for joining me tonight, and tune in for the Comic Show post-show tomorrow on my channel at 10 p.m. Eastern, where we got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Flash, Arrow, the latest Arrow Flash crossover to talk about, also the penultimate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode before their mid-season finale next week. And this was a pretty big one, and I expect next week is going to be even bigger, because a lot of crazy stuff happened this week. I expect there are going to be some varying opinions on the Arrow Flash crossover as well. So stay tuned for that. Thanks everybody for joining me tonight, and I will talk to you tomorrow night. Until then, later.